Don't be sad that it's over. Just be happy that we got here, that we got to the Eastern Conference Finals, that we got this content. Alongside Joe Giglio and former governor, huge Caniac Roy Cooper, I'm Joe Ovies. Your song is playing, Joe. Closing time is here for the Carolina Hurricanes. I don't want to call this 2024 Rangers because they at least made it a go here in the third period. But, man, that was a brutal second period. Brutal second period.
Yeah, the one period they've been dominant all playoffs long, betrayed in the second period. The Florida Panthers score in bunches. We saw that down there in the third period of Game 3. You see it here in the decisive second period. But I want to give the Hurricanes credit because there was a challenge out there for Sebastian Aho, scores the first 2 goals of the game.
Yep.
There's a challenge out there for Seth Jarvis, scores the game-tying goal, which I thought was going to lend us to one of those marathon overtime affairs.
Freddie Anderson also keeping the Canes in this game early in the third period with a penalty kill at 16:07. He made a couple of great saves, and then again at 9:02 to keep them in this game. But then at 7:39, the only goal that was scored on the tunnel side, the game winner. I mean, there was the empty netter, obviously, but the game decider was scored on the tunnel side, which once again, I know people are going to be fixated on Alexander Nikishin and Dmitry Orlov. Robinson was in on that goal too. Just caught flat-footed. The second time they got caught flat-footed too on the tying goal.
I'm going to let Coop jump in here, but we've seen this. Sometimes the other team has really good players.
Yes. No, that's what it is.
Pass on that play was extraordinary.
Fantastic.
I thought Orlov was doing as well as he could, and he's just a monster. And as we've said all along, as Sidney Lowe taught us so many years ago, your best players have to be your best players. That's their captain. The money was on the table. He made a great play. And then Verhaeghe had the presence of mind. You go back to the 6-on-4, Aho's in a very similar position. He just tried to get it on the goal.
Yeah.
Verhaeghe gave it that half of a step and lifts it up into the – and, hey, those two guys made a really, really good play. I get it. Nikishin may be out to lunch. Robinson maybe could have been there.
Robinson was the start of it. But, yeah, Nikishin's trail.
Barkov was the real key there for Florida.
Well, the start of the avalanche was bad penalties.
Yeah.
Yes. Bad penalty on Kokonyemi. Couple of bad penalties on Carrier, just pretty obvious holding calls that were very frustrating. But this Florida team just strikes so quickly. Their transition game is so good, and if you are flat-footed for a half a second, they take advantage, and they did it the entire series. I thought we gave a great effort tonight. It was pretty impressive to see us work so hard.
First period was dominant. They played their game.
I felt good about it, and then that that goal, that bad penalty, and that power play goal within
30
the first
seconds.
10 seconds.
Yeah, it was within 30 seconds, and then the follow-up. Wade Minter, PA voice, he wasn't even done announcing the goal when that second goal got scored.
So the power play numbers, guys, are stark.
Yeah,
for Florida. At home in the playoffs, 1 for 28. On the road in the playoffs, 12 for 28.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was
including the goal tonight, as you guys mentioned, the Tkachuk goal, which I thought they needed to score that goal to get back in the game, just like we saw with the Hurricanes in Game 1. Sometimes it's one goal here, one goal there. I've been quick to credit their depth in this series, but tonight, again, money's on the table. It's Tkachuk who scores the goal to make it 2-1, and then Marchand with a nice play it's a set play off of the face-off, and Barkov with the goal. Sometimes when that money's on the table, your best players step up in the way that they did, and you tip your hat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
I don't think there's any shame in what happened here tonight with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't embarrassing like we saw the first 2 home games here and how that all played out. You talk about money on the table. That was Sebastian Aho in the first period. Roy, to your point, this could have easily been a bad crowd with everybody kind of assuming the series was going to go the Panthers' way. Kind of a dreary day, little, parking lot was whatever, but the crowd was fired up. Aho obviously paid it off that way with those 2 goals. And then obviously Seth Jarvis stepping up big here too. I thought Jordan Staal had a pretty decent game as well, all things considered. Look, I want to go back to huge Caniac mode here.
Show the people the notes, by the way.
Yeah, you got notes.
Yeah, during the game, I know I'm coming up here with you guys.
Some of us have law degrees,
and so I'm taking notes.
Some of us got not
got that.
Some of us went to state.
I have my daughter Natalie over here taking pics of my notes.
But it's kind of a weird dynamic, right? If we were having this conversation during Christmas time, like we typically would, right? We go to the governor's mansion, we talk about the Canes, you got your jersey on. I mean, this was a season of just chapters, right? You had the off season, the thought of, well, right, what's this team really going to be? Rebuilding year, the high of getting Mikko Rantanen, the low of having to move on from Mikko Rantanen, falling in love with the new guys that are here, like Logan Stankoven. And then you get to the Eastern Conference Finals after dominating your first two opponents in the Devils and the Washington Capitals. There's a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions to go through on this one.
I'll tell you this. I'm in mourning right now. I can't help it. Yeah. But I'm in mourning. But the Oilers being up 3-1 on the Stars makes me a little happy. and you're the one who brought up Rantanen. So
yeah, that's fine.
I'm happy about the 3-1 lead there. And there was a little chant of "Let's go Oilers" during the presentation of the Eastern Conference Trophy there.
I do love, the Prince of Wales Trophy.
The Wales Trophy, sorry.
Yes, I did hear a little bit of an Edmonton chant. That was amusing.
So I'm ready for that now. I'm down for that. That's my team now. I'm ready.
Mike Maniscalco, Canes play-by-play now, hanging out with.
We got Maniscalco. We got the man.
Well, we've got to actually be able to hear each other, Governor.
Well, I don't know which Joe had a problem with the.
It doesn't matter. It's hang on. You and I are not in the business of pointing fingers. We solve problems.
That's right.
I don't know. I pointed a few fingers earlier, but that's okay. Yeah, I like to solve problems.
I might as well. Just saying.
Seriously, Director of Communications, Mike Maniscalco. Let's go.
You never know.
Hey, man, you never know where it might go. Just like we didn't really know. Look, man, I'll be honest, I was kind of thinking, all right, what's the angle? Game 6. Can they make this thing happen? I mean, the way they started this game, Mike, was exactly how you want this team to keep going after their Game 4 victory down in Florida. And all you can ask is Sebastian Aho, who we've been discussing. Can he step up? He got his dad's strength today.
Yeah.
And put this team in a position to win. But look, man, tip your cap, dude. Florida's just good.
Well, yeah, I don't think that you could script a better start for Carolina than what you got in the first period with one asterisk. And it came back to bite them in this game, which was you would have loved a power play goal. Yeah, to get up 3-0 with what they did. There's a reason why the Florida Panthers are going to their third consecutive Stanley Cup final appearance because they're an awful lot like the Carolina Hurricanes, and they're relentless. They don't give up, and you give them an inch, and they go a mile with it. In that second period, the 2 goals in 30 seconds. I mean, that's a stunner. That's a gut punch.
Yeah, man.
But they were skilled plays where they take advantage of mistakes when you can't clear, where you don't get the puck deep enough. They transition to it. And Alexander Barkov is a superstar that we do not talk about enough because, he doesn't score 50 goals and he doesn't get 120 points. But, the play he makes
he got robbed of a Conn Smythe last year as well.
But the play he makes on what is the eventual game-winning goal by Carter Verhaeghe, I mean, there's maybe 6-7 guys in the league who are making that play. So you give all credit to that. I think the tough thing for me is the Canes finally showed what Canes hockey was in this Eastern Conference final. They put 5 periods of it together here tonight. I like their third period, but, Florida just find a way to Florida this one. We can do we weren't supposed to be here from the start of the season stuff.
Yeah.
This hurts. You get this far.
It does.
And I think the tough thing for this one, because you always play the what if game. What if they sent this one back to Florida?
Yeah.
And, and it's Game 6 and the way that they were playing. But to be real, the power play let them down tonight.
And, sure did.
And I can point to the goals that were scored, but it's the goals that weren't when you had the man advantage. And then you're given that opportunity late with 3 minutes left to tie the game.
Yeah,
you got to find a way to get one there if you're going to make this a series and keep this thing going.
I guess the tough part for this, to Mike's point, man, this is going to hurt one way or the other because you're once again given an opportunity to get to the finals, regardless of how you thought the season was going to go. The other thing, though, Roy, is there's going to be some tough conversations this offseason, and we're going to see some people have to say goodbye for a variety of reasons. Contracts, maybe it just hasn't worked out here. I'm sure I'm looking at the chat. I can tell right now without looking at the chat, Kotkaniemi is the person who's going to get the brunt of it tonight. Yeah. But those are some tough conversations that Rod Brind'Amour and the front office are going to have. And it's a little bit, closing time, right? A little bit of a closing of a chapter, too, with a particular set of this group.
Well, such a great guy, Kotkaniemi. You just like him. I mean, he's just seems to be a personal guy. He works hard. He tries hard. But Coach Brind'Amour called him out a couple of times during – I think both series that we really needed him to step up. And I don't know what his future is. Obviously, when we did the fun contract with Kotkaniemi and stole him,
trolling Montreal in the process.
That's right. And it was, this is a player who can grow. This is a player who can be a top line or top two line player. And, you can make arguments that it just hasn't quite happened. He hasn't reached what you had hoped his potential would be.
I think one of the things that if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, what do you look at? What's the model? The Florida Panthers are the model. They had a team that had 120 points and won. I know, Joe, where I'm going to go when I say won the President's Trophy.
Yeah, you don't want that.
I know.
Stay away.
He wants no part of it. But they looked at their team that offseason when they got bounced in the playoffs and said, we need to change what we're about. They got bounced by a tough Tampa team who banged them around the ice. And they traded a 100-point guy in Jonathan Huberdeau. They traded a top defenseman in Mackenzie Weegar. They moved out a draft pick. And I know that Canes fans don't want to hear this name right now, but they brought in Matthew Tkachuk. And that started to really change the attitude of the Florida Panthers. And we'll see. I think that when you look at the core of this team, and I'm talking about Aho, in Jarvis and Slavin, Svechnikov showed me a little something here tonight. What you need to, the young guys who are coming up. I don't know if you've got to make you got to blow up the core, but you do have to, I think, add. There's that little something when you run into a team like Florida that you got to have ready for them to get to that next level. And we're seeing it with what Edmonton and Dallas are doing. that nastiness. Edmonton got nasty, adding players, to their lineup. So
Canes have been chasing that nastiness too.
And it's hard to get because there's so little of it that's out there. And
with skill.
That's the key. Because you can add, there's a bunch of guys you can add and be nasty, and they do nothing for your team at all. I'm talking about you add the skill guys who everybody, you hate them when they're on the other side. You love them when they're your guys.
Yeah.
But
is it nastiness, Mike? Nastiness, or is it just kind of stepping up? And Roy,
no, it's nasty because it's the mindset of going, I'm going to have to be the villain.
Well, the reason
I'm
why
going
I
to
bring
have to be a bad guy.
The reason why I bring this up is I know Trip Tracy went on with Spit and Chicklets, and I guess he relayed the story to Biz that Jordan Staal was mad because of the way that the team had been talked about after Game 3, where they weren't stepping up for Aho. They weren't stepping up, and they just were kind of around while the Panthers were just putting it in their face, or as Joe likes to say, putting it in their ear. And clearly the Canes responded to that. And I thought you saw an extension of that tonight. Is that just I get Rod's overall mentality with this stuff. You don't want to take retaliation penalties. You don't want to do anything dumb. You don't want to put them on the power play. But there's a fine line that this team, I think, still struggles with.
Well, Roy, I'll ask you. I can't believe I just called you Roy.
You can now.
It's okay.
I know. But
call him Super Coop.
But
you're fine.
There's, as you know, a time and place, right?
Yeah.
There's a time when you want to just do something public and, we were talking about pointing fingers and whatnot. And then for a little bit more tact, if you watch what Florida does, they don't do all the crazy stuff when it's a 1-1 game or if they're trailing. They do it when they're in the lead to get under your skin. So
that's right.
That's where it becomes, you got to have a certain mindset to want to do it and know what follows with it.
And this team certainly knows when to gear up. I mean, their regular season was not all that great, but they began to turn it on as we got nearer to the playoffs, and you could tell, and you could see, oh no, here come the Panthers.
And we've gone this long without talking about Bobrovsky.
Yeah.
You know, that 6-on-4, there was a lot of chances.
Yeah.
You can't ask for many more than that. You know what I mean? Like,
he gave up a lot of rebounds.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
The rebounds were there tonight, but he stopped the initial shots. And there was one of them from Gostisbehere. It was I don't know. I still don't know. There was a screen from Robinson, a shot from Gostisbehere. I'm like, how is this guy even seeing the puck? Yeah. And he does. Right. And, you know, you throw that all together, you got yourself a combo platter that, to Mike's point, every team chases. Every team does.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, will they hold on to Sam Bennett? I don't know. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
well, no, that's the tough thing. When you win, you can't pay everybody.
Yeah.
So,
and they just got a little bit of puck luck with the Hyman injury to Edmonton. But, you know, I think that'll be a great series again between those two teams. That it was last year. I think it will be again. The annoying thing for Hurricanes fans is going to be watching Draisaitl and McDavid light them up a little bit, because Bob will still be good, but you're talking about two of like the 4 best players in the world.
No, they are. For my money, they're 1 and 2. And McDavid and Draisaitl are 1 and 2. And
Draisaitl made a shot the other night.
I know. Like,
you can say that most any day of the week.
It's true. They're those guys who I watch, and when you watch them in person, when you're done, you're like, damn, they're good. Like I know they're good, but when you see it happening and you're trying to keep up with it in real time, I got to give Freddie a little bit. Can I give him some flowers tonight?
Sure.
Yeah, because that third period, when Florida wanted to push and extend the lead to make it 4-2, Freddie made huge saves, like 3 or 4 big saves, and then the Canes tie it up. And he makes another big save after that. And then again, it takes an all-world play from Barkov to set up Verhaeghe for what's the eventual game winner. But, you know, there's so many things that you have to have in place to win the whole damn thing. And it's hard to have it, and you need a little bit of luck too. The one thing too with the rebounds, though, I got to go back to game 3. Florida's first goal. They had 4 guys in front of Pyotr Kochetkov. And they're looking, and they get a deflection off of Dmitry Orlov. But they were 4 red jerseys in front of the net. And that's in the postseason. You got to get there. You got to get to those spots.
It's harder than ever.
To get there.
Because of the nastiness.
Yes.
You ask for it when you're in there, but you got to be in there.
The way that the last 2 games went, you know, after the first 3, I feel like there was the nuclear option. But the way that the last 2 games went, does Tom Dundon and Eric Tolsky and Rod Brind'Amour take a different approach than they would have if it was a sweep down there?
That's a good question. I've got this feeling towards that. If all 4 games were 5-2,
the wipeout,
5-2, 5-0, but I think that there is going to be here are the launch codes. We're going to do something different. But I think that you have to look at, it's what I said, you have to look at what happened these last 2 games and be like, all right, it's not everything, but what is the thing that we are not bringing to the party now that we need to have? What is that ingredient that's missing here?
Just if we did a draft right now of the forwards, there's like 8 guys from the Panthers you're taking before you get to the 3rd Hurricane. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's just one of those deals. I'm not selling any of those other guys short. And I know the way that Aho and Jarvis played tonight, and I know what Svech has done in the playoffs, but you know, again, these sheets are the greatest things ever invented. Like, you just look down,
they come in handy.
You know, you look down,
look what you have, and look what I have.
I know.
I mean, this is the man of the people with his notes on his knee. And you have all of this beautiful type.
I know
stats.
But you look down.
No wonder you guys are
you're
good.
Like, look at this 3rd line. Oh wow, look at this Marchand guy. You know, and then the 6 guys they have in their top 6.
It's always good to look at that when they start mixing up the lines, and you're like, okay, now where am I?
Right.
But and they got that Marchand guy. That's
Marchand
something.
It's interesting their approach defensively, though, because it hasn't been let's build from the back, and obviously the Canes, going back to Ron Francis's tenure, did build from the back. I
think we got to give a lot of credit to the Panthers' penalty kill.
Yeah,
they were very aggressive. We had a hard time figuring it out. Obviously, we couldn't score on the power play, and we kept trying to move it to the middle. But when they're so aggressive, you got to get it inside.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was jotting down that I was getting frustrated with. What are you looking for? Like, are you looking for the perfect tic-tac-toe here? Like, just get a freaking shot on net. But that's discrediting what the Panthers were able to do to essentially push the Canes to the outside and not really give them an opportunity to find that shot.
Everyone in the chat, be ready. I'm about to criticize Rod Brind'Amour.
No. I was going to put that on hold because I need to channel my inner Chip Tracy.
Oh, okay.
To give Super Coop Roy a compliment here. That's the most astute thing about the power play, because there were a couple of people who know a heck of a lot more about hockey than I do, who said the Canes have got to get it to the bumper, the middle, the guy in the middle.
Yeah.
And that guy's got to be more dangerous when he gets the puck. And that's where, when Florida's that aggressive and they're keeping it to the outside, when you do get it to that space, in between the box or the diamond, that guy's got to know where he's going with it. He's got to be dangerous with it. So that's the big key right there.
Maniscalco called me astute when it came to hockey.
I didn't know it was.
This is a great. I'm coming out of my morning now.
You made it.
Honestly, if you go back and look, when the Canes had successful power plays against Florida, they got it to the middle. And then they could, work it from there.
I thought they adjusted from the beginning of the series to tonight. I didn't mind their actual power play tonight.
They had looks, and again, Bob came up with
there was one
saves.
part of it, and I will be critical of Rod for this.
Okay,
Jackson Blake didn't belong on the first power play tonight, and
I
get it.
Stankoven.
That's what I wanted to see.
That's what I kept
I wanted to see them, and I know sometimes you got to jumble some lines, this and that. I know he likes to play multiple units. He's unique in that way, but I think Stankoven should have been on that unit instead of Blake. It's a rare Rod mistake. I'm sure at some point in this summer I'll tactfully bring it up to him,
and he will give us
knowledge,
and he will give us a very good explanation.
He's probably taping this, Joe.
Yeah, of course.
He occasionally watches.
Trust me. He knows a lot.
He really does.
He'll listen to mine and Shane's podcast for whatever reason. I keep asking him why.
This was Joe criticizing
that's Joe. By the way, not Rod, that's Joe Giglio.
Yeah.
Giglio.
156 Mickelson Ridge. No, that's for all the people in the chat. Or we're giving it the old. Let's fire this. Let's do that. Let's do this and the other.
And
listen again.
That hindsight's always 20/20. About
sure,
you could have made this tweak or changed that up, but you're in this game now. Like that. That's a change that if they win, probably happens in Game 6. Does that logic follow?
You can evaluate.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Listen, the other team had more better players.
Well,
you poured it out tonight. The Canes poured it out tonight. I love the way that they played in the first period. I actually was just wanting them to get out of the second period, which they eventually did. You get the equalizer from Jarvis, which was a mistake by Florida, by the way, that they pounced on.
Yeah.
The Canes' first goal as well. Aho's first goal was a mistake by Florida. So I saw a lot of growth and progress and reaction in the series by the team. Again, but ultimately, look at the names who scored the goals or who created the goals. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to, we don't even need to be that astute. We don't need.
Well, you guys
to be a
just
Harvard
so
visiting professor.
you know.
I'm just pushing.
Just so you know. No, trust me, needed that for a game. Obvious. What is it about you guys from the old Bull and the Buzz who just take off during the Stanley Cup playoffs? I was going to take a vacation.
No.
You stay until you cut. You chart your schedule.
Call him out by name. Don't subtweet him.
Yeah, that's a deep
Adam
cut.
Gold not being here for Game 7 of the 2006 finals.
Adam Gold was on his honeymoon in 2006 down in Charleston. He claims that he watched it at the King Street Pub and Grill or whatever it was called there in Charleston.
Is that marriage still going? Is that the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shout out to Aileen.
Wow.
Oh yeah, trust me. He found somebody who can put up with him. He's going to stick with her.
But for all of the things that you look at when you get to roster construction, to your point, when you look at the defenseman for the Florida Panthers, Aaron Ekblad was the first overall pick in the draft in 2014, and he's turned into a really good defenseman. Now, is he a Hall of Famer? He won a couple of more Stanley Cups. You put yourself in the argument there. But what they have been really good at doing is identifying now with Paul Maurice and what they do. And this is where it's not just, one or two things. It's your scouting staff. They found Gustav Forsling, who was with the Carolina Hurricanes as a farmhand. And I'm 100% sure I knew the guy, Paul Krapelka, who when the Canes tried to send him through waivers, like, nope, he's coming down here and we're going to give him a chance to play. Last year, they signed Oliver Ekman-Larsson, because they had the injuries to the back end, and everybody's like, signing this guy, he's washed. Well, no, he wasn't. He was a huge cog for them in their run to the Stanley Cup last year, and then he cashed in Toronto. But then you pick up a guy like Nico Mikkola, 6'6", 240 pounds. 2 years ago, what's the rest of the league thinking of letting this guy? What are the Rangers thinking letting this guy go? And then at the trade deadline, you know what? They looked at their D and they said, we need to add more. And they get Seth Jones out of Chicago for a song because Chicago doesn't want to pay Seth Jones that much anymore. But they find a way to get him out of there for basically, I don't want to say next to nothing. You traded Spencer Knight, who was one of your goalies of the future, but, they made it work. To do things. And, look, the Canes tried to be bold and aggressive this year. They took their big swing with Mikko Rantanen, and, that didn't work out. But at the same time, it did, because look at Logan Stankoven. I think
he's part of that core you talked about earlier, Mike.
I really think so.
Yeah.
And he's going to be like, Canes fans, don't worry. His deal's going to get done. He's restricted. He's not going anywhere. That might be one of the easiest contracts in the history of the world to get done. But that's the part that you're looking for. Like you've got to get the pieces to fit what you do.
Yeah.
And now that's what the Canes are going to look for. And we can do this post-mortem when this one's over.
There's going to be a lot of conversation, because I know I already see it in the chat. I see it on social media. And I remember I put it out there with the whole Mitch Marner thing, is that this idea that nobody wants to play in Carolina. Nobody wants to be here, which of course is not true. Although speaking of Mikko Rantanen, shout out to my brother. He sent me this meme, the illusion of free choice, 1-3 in the conference finals with Mikko Rantanen and the Dallas Stars. So, one way or the other, you're going to find yourself in that situation, right?
Yeah.
But again, that's one of those lingering storylines. And actually, the Mikko Rantanen thing plays out in a way that, okay, we can kind of somewhat move forward. And Luke DeCock at the News and Observer is going to join us here in a second too. We're going to go five wide. Five wide. I should have brought
another mic.
We don't have the ability for 5 mics.
I can tag out if you need me to. I don't know what else I'll say. You made the most salient point of the night.
Yeah, so you know what? Drop Mike.
Do you listen to this? It's either you run before you get dragged down, or
you got to remember the Gov is like a governor.
On
this program.
Yes,
because I'm on my best behavior.
I know
when he's on this program.
I know,
that's growth for you. Actually,
I've said more on the line words than you have since I've joined here.
So we actually can before we say goodbye to Roy Cooper, this is actually a good opportunity for you to sell North Carolina, because I know that we talk about narratives a lot. For the Carolina Hurricanes, the narrative was, you haven't won a game in the Eastern Conference Finals. Well, they finally did it. They finally got that done. We don't have to discuss it anymore. We're here. They played a great game tonight. Just Florida's better. Nobody's going to argue that. But now that next narrative is going to kick in for the Carolina Hurricanes. This idea based on Mikko Rantanen
Gensel.
Even though Gensel was a completely different situation, but I understand why it gets brought up. This idea that, nobody wants to play for Carolina. No big free agent guy is going to want to come here for any number of reasons you can cook up. But damn it, this is a fine state, Roy Cooper.
This is a fine state. and it's a place where players want to be.
Yes.
And in fact, we have big city life with a small community feel.
Yeah.
And I think that the players understand that. Good schools for their kids. They love the camaraderie that is here. And let's not forget here, I remember sitting in the stands, 9 years without playoffs?
Yeah.
I mean, playoffs every year it means a lot. It means a lot to the organization, for our financial stability, for excitement of the fans. Yeah, we want to be in that finals again. Yep. We've been in the finals twice. We need to do it again, but that says a lot, and we can't discount that. We can attract, I think, a big star, a big scorer. But I think, the question we're going to be talking about is whether that guy has to play the Carolina way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's going to be part of it.
And that's going to be part of it. And, I don't know. That's beyond me. I don't know. But I know that I'm excited about next season, and will be tomorrow morning.
Well,
and
all right, you should be. And I know that to piggyback off of this, for all of and I understand that there's a large portion of the fan base that does not like the Tar Heel Blue.
Yeah.
But I don't ever remember recruits saying, I don't want to play for Dean Smith. When you say the Carolina way, like that immediately pops in my head. You get a guy who can come down here with all of the benefits that North Carolina has to offer without the taxes, literally, of other places that you'd have to go play. And you play for this coach. And again, the Canes are one of 6 teams that have gone to 3 conference finals since 2019. So a lot of good stuff.
Before we say goodbye, and actually, Mike, I need for you to take a selfie of all 5 of us here, real quick, if you don't mind, with my phone.
Oh,
so,
like, I want
to like commemorate the fact that we're 5 deep,
5 wide.
we're five wide here on the post game
with
show.
a goalie in the back too.
Let's go.
Love it.
Love it.
Hang on, can we do one more? Oh yeah,
there we go.
All
All
right,
right, love that. See, we're just doing live selfies here on the
Perfect.
on the
There
OG
we
After
go.
Dark. So, my last question, I just want to clarify. The money in North Carolina is the same exchange rate with all the other teams, right? Like, there's no, like, the money's not worth less here, right? Like, so if Tom Dundon wants to throw the bag at somebody, there's no weirdness, right?
No.
Okay.
No weirdness whatsoever.
Okay. We
In
still
fact,
okay.
We want that bag to be thrown.
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And we want that salary cap to be no room.
I just want to
No-
make sure.
no
I just want to make sure that the cash dispensed
And,
in North Carolina banks is the same amount. That's all I need to know.
The Peter Kamanis years, we never even got to the salary cap.
This is
So
true.
guys,
This is
so we're
true.
gonna
See,
continue
you
to
brought
be-
up the bad words, not me.
that I don't mind saying. Okay,
Doing all my
that-
bits.
Luke, do you even have anything left to say now?
No, we're good. We're good. All right. I'm going to thank Blue and
All right.
Roy. Thanks for coming
Yeah,
by.
man.
And thanks for the help this
You got it.
postseason, man.
Mike.
We
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Roy,
We appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Cool.
All right. While Luke is getting ready to sit down with us,
Thank you
big
for
thanks to
shepherding
Bloom and
us here.
Blinds. Check them out. 919-980-9815. You can call them right now. You can call them right now, and you can make sure that you get your treatments the way you want them, right? You want full blackout, you want automation. You can do 10 treatments or more and get 10% off when you contact our friends at Bloom and Blind. So contact them at 919-980-9815. All right, I'm going to do a little like on-site producing here. I need you guys to shift that way to get you in the camera. Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
It's almost.
Luke
Hey,
DeCock,
Mike, did you
columnist.
hear the governor this time?
Yeah, actually, I did.
Wow,
It was
Joe.
refreshing, and
Joe catches
It was
strays
bad.
today.
It was bad. It's my fault.
no, I don't blame you for that, Giglio. I've already thrown my grenade at him.
I was
Wow.
at a freaking wedding. Like, what am I supposed
Oh, that's
to
right.
do?
He did.
Yeah.
Where's the beer?
Oh,
I know.
Did we drink it all?
My 20-year-olds got into the beer.
I should have
Like
snuck up.
all of the OG light? Like
That at the Giglio
run-
house.
the
Yeah,
run-
actually,
the
the
run
cases that I
Luke,
bought.
mistake on my end. I actually had the airplane bottles of Malort in my hand.
Oh.
I should have brought them for tonight.
I have
We
a
don't
full
need that.
bottle of Malort.
Oh, I have
Wanna
a
do
full
that.
bottle
You're
of
such a
Malort too.
sicko.
Yeah, you
No,
are.
it was
a sicko.
gifted to me.
You're
Okay.
I
pure
feel like
sicko
Paul
on that
Newman
one.
standing up and saying, "Where the hell are the singing packs?"
Exactly.
All right,
I feel
so
like Robin Williams. I should be spray painting something up here.
all right, so before we get into the what the hell is this offseason going to look like for the Carolina Hurricanes?
Already?
I mean, yeah, man. This is how the media works. We're doing it entirely way too early. Canes offseason,
Free agency
right?
rankings.
Where are they in the power rankings for the NHL? Look, man, you couldn't have asked for a better start. Freddie Anderson gave him a chance in the third period, tied it up. But man, what are you going to say? Florida's just too good.
Yeah, we talk a lot about physical toughness with this team. Are they tough enough? Are they big enough? Are they strong enough? I really wonder, the way the first 2 games went, the way things went at 2-0 tonight, should we be talking more about mental toughness? Because the Panthers played about 10 good minutes in this game, and they scored enough goals to win, and they scored a power play goal when they absolutely needed it. And to me, that's mental toughness. You're not phased. You don't blink. And what did the Hurricanes do tonight? They blinked. Rod Brind'Amour basically just said it. I asked him in the press conference, you guys were the more physical team in the first period. You didn't hit them at all in the second period. Was that them skating and getting on their game? And he basically was like, well, you saw it, the power play goal and all the momentum and the building. And he was basically just like, we blinked. We gave up a power play goal after a terrible penalty, after a power play we didn't score on, and then we let them take the game from us.
Yeah.
And that's all. And that's the way this series went. The first game they played okay. They got beat. The second game, they did not show up. The third game, it's 1-1 in the third, and they fold. One bad turnover basically cost them the series, you could argue. I felt like the Taylor Hall turnover when that happened, and it's all of a sudden it's 4-1, 5-1. In my head, I'm thinking that was the series, and it may have been. But they come out tonight, played their best period of the series in the first period, got the goals they needed from their best player,
from
their best player,
Yep.
and then their best player makes a huge mistake on the third goal. Massive. That's his man. He loses the faceoff, loses his man. It's a set play. The Panthers run it all the time, and Aho gets beat. And you can't win playoff games in the conference finals, if your best players are getting beat on plays like that and your team is wilting when pressed. So, I'm sorry. They tried so hard narrative. This is a team that blinked in the moment.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to live with that all summer. That's just the way it is. That's not being harsh or critical. That's what happened tonight.
Isn't that what last year was about, though?
See, I will go with the only reason why I'll disagree with you about full mental toughness. I mean, because we can break down things, and you're not wrong about how the Panthers played tonight, and they found the way to get the win.
Yeah.
But that's what Florida does. They just keep going. I mean, you got to credit Paul Maurice for that, right? Sorry.
I don't have
to.
I
was putting that one on the tee for you. I wanted to get angrier, Luke. But
isn't this where the mental edge comes in, though?
But
right? That Florida has the mental edge over the Canes?
If this team was not mentally tough, first off, going into game 3, when they don't have Sean Walker, Jalen Chatfield, now you got to play 2 rookies and all this. You literally could have just said, we're just going to get dog walked in this one, and series is over. And it was 1-1 after 40. Now, to your point, the third period, the straw breaks the camel's back and all hell breaks loose, and they couldn't bounce back from it. But at that point, you kind of were sitting there going, I almost actually expected this earlier. If they weren't mentally tough, we wouldn't have seen what we saw in game 4. We wouldn't have seen that at all.
And I don't think blaming the Johnstown's flood on a leaky toilet. I mean, we saw what we saw.
The dog saved the city, so maybe you can put that for game number 4. The dog saved them from the flood.
Fuck him.
But I think I go back to where that was really in question is when the Rangers did what they did in game 6.
Yeah,
and you couldn't stop their power play no matter what, because that's when I start going, this becomes more mental than physical. When your power play can't score at all, and I know tonight it didn't, but you can't stop the other team's power play, and they had no answer for Chris Kreider. And I go back to last
in the third period, and that's why I kind of bring it up that way about blinking or toughness or whatever. Man, they just shit the bed in the third period in 2024. And I know that sentiment began to creep into people for the second period of this game. So they did bounce back. They did find a way to get back in. Freddie did make key saves.
Jarvis does score to tie it.
Yeah, at 16 minutes, he makes a couple of key saves to close out that penalty kill. He makes another key save with 9 minutes to go to keep them in this game. Sometimes, man, if anything were to bother me, it's not necessarily blinking in the moment today. It's more along the lines of like, what the hell happened in the first 3 games, man? Yeah, like that to me is the real question. Not game 4, not game 5, which you gave your best efforts. You won one of them, and then you had an opportunity today, and Florida was just better. What the hell were the first 3 games? That's the question.
For me, it's game 2. What the hell was game 2?
Yeah.
Right.
That's the one where...
Yeah, even game 1 to a certain extent, because you gave yourself a chance in that game.
Yeah.
You did play well enough to at least be competitive in that game, and it got away from you. Look, man, what are you asking for as a team? You're trying to do the comeback for the 5th time ever. You got a 2-0 lead at the first intermission.
Yeah.
What could go wrong having John Shire do the siren in a Final Four game with a chance to propel Florida to a national title?
Shout out
with a lead.
Wow. Shout out to Corey Lavalette, who he called it. It's Hootie in the blown lead.
I refined it, but yes, it's Corey's joke.
Okay, Corey's
100%.
Joke. Corey's joke. Hootie in the blown lead. Darius Rucker out here to get things going, and then John Shire once again finding it.
But isn't this getting us back? Mental edge.
But my point is, I got distracted.
Yeah.
You're up 2-0 in the first period. The building's going nuts. Your best player scored 2 goals. And you take you have a power play that kind of is a little listless, and then you take a bad penalty. Florida takes bad penalties all the time.
Yep.
It never seems to faze them. The Hurricanes absolutely folded. The third goal, Jarvis's goal, was great. The Anderson saves on Marchand and Verhaeghe were great. But to me, you lose that game when the Panthers score on the power play and you let them come back and score 30 seconds later.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's your season. And to me, you look at this series, 5-game series, was defined by moments like that, where one team pushed the other and the other team fell. The Taylor Hall turnover, the power play goal tonight, game 1, the way game 1 unraveled. Game 2, I'm with Mike. Like that, the first 2 games of the series, like Jordan Stahl and I were talking about this, you can't lose those first 2 games the way you lost them playing well and losing, playing poorly at home, and then pretend that you really have a chance to win the series. You're going to fight and you're going to try, but you know that your chances slipped away. And I'd already written that before we even had that conversation. But that to me gets me back to mental toughness. You saw this series slip away from you at key moments where you could not keep a hold of the rope. And to me, that's the difference between a team that's going to the finals for the third straight time and a team that's been in that position off and on for 7 years and has never even put the other team to an elimination game in this round.
So Hayes shout out to Hayes Permar, the Real too.
Hayes?
This is something that has popped up in the chat a couple times, but he brought it up again. Has there been any discussion about the frosty Rod Brind'Amour, Paul Maurice handshake? I will admit that I was in the process of getting the StreamYard fired up and ready to go, so I was not paying attention to the handshake line. Did you see anything?
I didn't see it, but I will say, if you're Rod Brind'Amour and Paul Maurice was the coach in 2010 when you were stripped of the captaincy, I don't think that's something you forget 15 years later.
No, clearly not.
And we dealt with this a little bit in 2023 when everyone kept asking Rod, you know, what did you learn playing for Paul? And blah, blah, blah. And you were his captain. And the answers were kind of like, yeah, he was one of the coaches I had in the 20-year career. Or, yes, Paul.
Diplomatic.
Paul talks a lot about what a good coach he is.
Yeah.
So
that would be the first thing that comes to mind as well.
I would just say that you can safely draw whatever conclusions you want from that period of time.
I didn't see it. We were wrapping up the broadcast, but again, that's not something that I would be shocked.
I just wish the Brent Burns retirement tour wasn't the penance for Paul Maurice.
No, trust me,
in 2010. Look, that's my only wish.
Well, look, as somebody who carries a vengeance, as somebody who carries, a vengeance around more than any other human being should. And I got to hear, isn't this guy so great, or wasn't that awesome? And you got to look at people and you're like, yeah, let's move on to something else.
Not you, Mike. What are you talking about?
Oh God.
Wait, who are you talking about?
He's talking about
the
me.
list is long and distinguished.
He's talking about me.
But if you saw the
can
message on Facebook, that's the way to get through. Appreciate that. Shows what you are.
Yeah, I will say this. You can go back whatever year that Brind'Amour was the most influential in my top 10 thing. He lists off everything he's taken from coaches at one point in that story, and there's like Bill Dineen, Paul Holmgren, Peter Laviolette, and there's a big gap in there.
Yeah, we're not talking about Bill Peters.
He was off the ice.
Yeah, he wasn't. He didn't play for Bill Peters.
But he did. He was there. Did he learn anything there? No. He learned what not to do.
He did.
He learned what not to do.
He even mentioned Bill Peters because he said, this is interesting. He managed to
I was half kidding.
He managed to even mention Bill Peters in that conversation, saying Bill wasn't a player, and I learned a lot from him about the way he looked at the game. It was a different perspective, a purely sort of coaching analytical perspective without the experience of being a player.
But not Paul Maurice.
He found a way to take something from every coach. Anyway, people were asking me about the handshake in 2023. Someone said, did they even shake hands? And I thought they shook hands at the bench as opposed to in the line.
It definitely wasn't Pesci and Rod.
Not highly.
And the fans weren't exactly giving Paul a standing as he left the ice.
But I said this. I think I said this after Game 3. It probably chaps Rod's ass to no end that this is now happening. When it was looking like they were going to get swept again, right? And of course, who wouldn't think that after Game 3 that they were going to get swept again? That not only do you have to deal with the stupid conversation about having not won Eastern Conference Finals games, it's happening again to that guy for all the reasons that you just laid out. So, yeah, I would imagine that it was a little bit of a frosty handshake. And you know what? That's okay. That is okay. Like, those are the things that I'm not going to get too upset about. It's perfectly okay, even when you're shaking hands, to still have a little bit of like, yeah, man, I don't like losing to you. I don't like this.
The other thing too about that, it's like this is now turning into the Bill Belichick thing, right? Where they agreed to waive.
Parcells?
Yeah, no. What was it? Was it McDaniel or whoever? They agreed that they weren't going to shake hands, but they waved, and then it turned out, and they actually had it on tape going, yeah, we're not going to shake hands. I'll just wave to you when we're going off the field, no matter what happens. Look,
now Belichick's agreeing to some other things.
But if you, that's for a different podcast. But if
off-season protocols,
if you lose and you lose here, like I don't. You don't need to hug the guy. What do you want?
I mean,
don't give me some performative art and isn't that great? No, just you do the handshake and you move off.
I don't like certain people. Certain people don't like me.
Right.
It's complicated, and it's okay. People move on. You could be respectful. You could be professional. Maybe not. People are going to be wondering who the hell is Maniscalco?
Again, the list is long.
Yeah. Well,
it's
Mike,
been around for a long time.
We're about to hit off-season protocols, so we could just do like a whole ether session for you.
No.
I'll even add the
my hate.
Mike Maniscalco's list of enemies Tuesday on the OG.
Maniscalco's Star Trek 5. I need the pain. That's what I need in my life.
I don't know if I'm going to be like Buscemi putting on the lipstick in Billy Madison, but there might be a list.
From Ken, are we going to get a Pablo Torre finds out about the handshake game?
Oh, God.
Maybe. Let's see. Per Twitter, Rod was complaining about Maurice saying something sarcastic. Apparently, there's somebody else saying that it was about the fact that he wouldn't shake the players' hands. Okay, we'll get to the bottom of it. I'm sure we'll find out here in the next 24 hours. All right. I brought this up with Roy Cooper in a much more fan perspective. We can wrap our conversation looking somewhat ahead. We'll have plenty of time to talk about this over the next couple of weeks, post-exit interviews and everything else. This team's going to look different next year, regardless. It was going to look different regardless of how this series turned out, as long as it ended with a loss. I think there were some situations here that, Kotkaniemi is just getting buried by just about everybody. You mentioned Taylor Hall, but that's already handled. We talk about the defensive pairings, right? Nobody wants to talk about some of the moments where, I don't know, I had a buddy of mine, Adam, text me. It's like, didn't have Brent Burns bailing Slavin out on my bingo card
everybody
today.
had that one, right?
Everybody had that one today.
It was Svechnikov drawing an offensive zone penalty.
Yeah.
And then Burns bailing out Slavin.
And Burns had his moments, but we don't talk about those moments. We only talked about the bad moments. Same with Orlov, too. Orlov had his ups and downs. This is a defense that was stretched thin thanks to Jacob Slavin playing a good chunk of the minutes because of the injuries. Morrow being in over his head. I mean, there's some clear defensive things that have to be fixed, and you can't undo the Pesce and the Shea stuff. So now, how do you fix it?
Well, I honestly would push back a little bit on that. This team's going to look a lot different. I don't think it's going to look very different because Burns is gone. Orlov is gone.
Yeah.
Kotkaniemi will be gone in some way or another. He's bought out or traded or whatever.
There's going to be some salary retained.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, the buyout's down to 800-something thousand a year. You can eat that now. Freddie's re-signed. He and PK will have even more of a timeshare. Like, I wouldn't be surprised next year in the playoffs if they just rotate.
Yeah.
Mike and I were talking about this before the game. That may make the most sense because rested Freddie is the best Freddie, although he was certainly fine tonight. And then at forward, the depth guys, Robinson and whoever, but your core guys are all signed. So you're going to add a defenseman. You theoretically, Chatfield and Walker should be healthy by September. Nikishin will play, obviously. Yep. Morrow's, probably your seventh guy. And you add a guy to replace, probably a right shot defenseman, maybe someone who can play with Slavin. But you know what? You have a ton of cap space. You have the cap space to add a legit top 3 to 4D. You have the cap space to add a forward, especially if Kotkaniemi is gone. You need to go get a center, even if you have to give something up to get it. And you need to go get a defenseman who can sort of fill the Orlov Burns role. Nikishin's going to fill some of that. But other than that, that roster is pretty much set. Now, what you don't want to do, in my opinion, and obviously I'm wrong about a lot of this stuff, is go spend a bunch of money on someone like Mitch Marner, who has a history of playoff non-success.
Yeah.
Like, Mitch Marner is more what you have here to me. I would rather you go find someone who you can put into a role as a number 1/number 2 center and make this a better team.
Yeah, I was very proud of myself last offseason when I sniffed out that the roster that started the season would not be the roster come the playoffs. I think, to your point about the number of players that they have under contract and the moves that make the most sense and what is actually available right now, I agree, might not be significant changes. But if you were to tell me by this time next year, we're talking about a different number 1 center or number 2 center, whatever you want to qualify them as, and we're talking about a different player playing with Slavin or as the number 2 defensive pairing, I would not be surprised in the least bit, because I think Tom Dundon is the driving force behind this franchise.
Well, yeah.
So I know that sounds obvious.
We need a hashtag breaking on that.
This is where crack the magazine.
Do you have a breaking news
not
sounder
not for you guys, but think about the desert in previous. Jim Rutherford was the driving force behind this franchise. So what I'm getting at is you have a guy who's a little bit. I have not made this point. I'll make it now. It's one of my favorite points. Tom Dundon doesn't have any vices that we know of. He doesn't drink.
Golf.
He doesn't gamble. Okay. He claims he doesn't own any stocks, but he has this team. And as someone who has multiple vices, I will tell you that when you don't have one or you only have one, you are hyper fucking focused on that one fucking vice.
He likes the odds. He has his own odds.
And that is this.
Kind of stuff. All right,
and
so
that's
that gets
where Tulsky comes in because he provides the odds.
So
he provides
the odds and things like that, but there's also a little element of like wanting to win in all sorts of ways, win contracts, win the splash to dominate the headlines, all that kind of stuff.
But he can learn from those mistakes, no?
So this gets back to Luke, your point. One thing that I hope, if there's any lessons learned from the Mikko Rantanen stuff, look, man, I get you want the big splashy players, but sometimes that ain't it.
You get the issue is there's a guy named Jack Hand who does a hockey tactics ebook, which I love.
Yeah.
You didn't just say Jack Handy, did you?
Jack Hand.
Jack Hand.
Yeah.
So
deep thoughts.
I was gonna,
deep hockey thoughts.
And then I thought it was
thoughts.
Jack Ham, the former Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker.
He's a hockey expert. But so he does this. He does this. He does absolutely. So he does this ebook in the middle of every season, breaking down teams' tactics. He did it this year, the Hurricane stuff, in the interim between when Rantanen arrived and the deadline when he exited.
Yeah.
And you read it, and every one of them is like, here's what the Hurricanes like to do. Here's how Rantanen doesn't fit that.
Yeah.
And how they're going to have to adjust to. He never fit the way these guys play.
So you got to go out and get the fit.
Well,
that has to be the lesson
guys
learned
out
here.
there like Logan Stankoven, like Mark Jankowski, who fit the way you play. They're not always the guys you expect. Now, I think Tulsky did a really good job of that last summer on a limited budget because the guys he did bring in, Gostisbehere, Walker, Robinson,
Roslovich.
But I think what we saw in the playoffs was that
No, but he got the numbers that Nason vacated.
At
the same price.
Fair enough.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was a good move.
And look, Marty Necas was exit visas were imminent for him anyway. It's not like they got, we gave up Marty Necas and didn't have much more. Like Logan Stankoven had more goals in the playoffs than Marty Necas ever did in a season.
Yep.
Like that was not a irreplaceable part. They might have missed Jack Drury a little bit.
I was going to say the one
guy. Here we go.
The one guy I missed.
The Joe Giglio hockey bingo card.
You take
the Jack Drury.
You take, you can take a swing like that, but it's got to be a guy,
Sam Bennett,
who fits better with what you do. I don't know how much tread is left on those tires.
That's fair too.
He'll be 29 on June 20th, just so you know.
And he's also going to get paid a lot of money, which gets to the other aspect of this: is Tom Dundon going to overpay for somebody?
There is one hockey, if you want to talk about this, or a pro sport edict.
Yeah,
you never want to be the team or the guy who gives the third contract. Because the third contract is you're paying for what they did, and the last few years you're not going to get the value for it.
My guess is the big moves they make. My guess is that unlike last summer, the big moves they make are not going to be free agent moves. Cap space can be weaponized in a number of ways. And one of the ways you can do it is by taking a bad contract with a player you really want.
Yeah.
They have the 2 draft picks they got from Dallas. They don't really care about using those. They've got plenty of firsts. You have weapons to get guys. And look, Jesperi Kotkaniemi at this point in his career, as that contract winds down, may have value to a team like a Chicago or a Utah.
Sure.
That is, needs guys who can play.
I need an NHL player.
Yes, like the Hurricanes in 2015. Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
He's an NHL player.
This guy's a hockey player, let me tell you. Yes, Ron Francis Ron Francis would trade for Jesperi Kotkaniemi. He'd be happy to trade a 5th-round pick for Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
He's too busy with his red stapler in the basement of the Seattle Kraken. So
that's the best escape route for anyway. My point is, I think you don't have to just sort of look at the players who are unrestricted free agents and say, those are the guys that we have to choose from. I think there's going to, one thing this franchise does, and this is Dundon and Tulsky. This is an area where Tulsky has tremendous influence over Dundon. Is we are going to find weird ways to do things. The Jarvis contract, deferred money, and insurance policies, and whatever. I wrote something. We talked about this right before they signed him. I don't know how this deal is going to go, but it's going to be weird. They are going. So there are trades you can make, deals you can make. Where you are going to do things that aren't just we're signing player A for 6 years at $8 million. We're trading player A for player B. I think you're going to see some of that this summer because A, they have the cap space, and B, they have the foundation. They only need to fill a couple very specific needs. I would bring Mark Jankowski back as your fourth line forward.
Well, he's under contract.
Oh, he's all right.
Yeah,
okay,
he's under contract.
All right. Well, then I would.
Do you think?
I agree.
Well done. You
Thank
agree
you.
with yourself.
Done. Breaking. Do you think the KK experiment will prevent them from potentially dipping into the RFA?
No,
absolutely
See,
not.
I don't think so either.
See that,
Yeah,
especially with
especially
armed with. Although isn't it supposed to be your picks? However, it works out.
But you can also, like, if you have already traded your pick, you can trade reacquire it to make the RFA signing.
At the risk of getting the eggplant emojis going for the fans in the chat
And yourself.
and myself, I like Mason McTavish. And unlike trying to get somebody out of Florida or Dallas with these taxes, what does that kid have to look forward to with the freaking Ducks? Seriously now.
With Roy Cooper here, that's a mistake.
And he's
on my
young.
end. When we're talking about taxes, you think Roy Cooper, if we told him, like, look, dude, while you're in office,
Can we get one of those loopholes?
can you create some tax loopholes for hockey players in the state of North Carolina? You think Roy Cooper would have
That's
done
a Brian Ford
that?
project.
Do you think he contemplated that? Do you think?
Yeah, Fork.
Wrong side of the aisle.
No, tax loopholes.
Oh, yes,
Tax
yes.
loopholes. That is their specialty.
Not the governor's office. Correct.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Fair point.
I feel like
obvious.
I should just slowly, like Homer Simpson, just
Mike's like, he's
fade
out of here.
into-
He's out of here.
No,
man.
I am. Just so you know, I am a team employee, and I don't want anybody to accuse me of, tampering or whatever.
No. I was gonna say,
Okay.
Maniscalco has recused himself from this conversation. He is not involved in this conversation.
Well,
He's
they've
not
done
taking
it.
anything he says.
My only point about the RFAs, they've done it once before. It obviously did not work out that well. But I still think it's a different route to your point about trying to be something
Also,
different.
Mike, nobody's watching. Don't worry about it.
Well, no. I
500
can
or
talk
something.
about offer sheets and
process.
RFAs.
Yeah.
I will tell Giglio, you're wrong. They did it perfectly. They were until St. Louis came around this year and did it to Edmonton with what they did. The Canes were really the first team ever to properly execute the RFA in that contract. Now, we can say it didn't work out the way that they wanted it to, but no, you're supposed to get a team that's on the ropes up against the salary cap, and they got a good young player, and you're like, oh, well, we're going to take them from you. And this is we're putting our chips on the table, and you got to decide: do you want the draft picks, or do you want to then get creative and funky with your salary cap? Yeah. So no, this is a team in a front office that, to what Luke's saying, I won't say necessarily a weird way of going about it, but I can promise you
We'll build a different mousetrap.
Yeah, I can promise you that everything is on the table with this team when it comes to improving them. And if it is an RFA, and you just take a look at what St. Louis did. I mean, those two players, you get Broberg on the defense, and their team looks radically different.
Yeah,
they're going to be young for a while. Those are the deals that you want to make if you're a front office.
Even KK's salary, like, obviously it's out of proportion to what he delivers, but that was the acquisition cost, right? Yeah. You're getting the third pick in the draft, a guy who still at that point had potential to be a number one setter for an inflated salary to get him to take the deal, and a couple draft picks you don't mind losing to make that deal. It's going to be a little different this year in the RFA market because the salary cap has gone up so much. There are fewer teams that are pinned that way, the way the Oilers were and the way the Canadians were. It's more like when the Canadians made that dipshit offer for Aho, and the Hurricanes were like, thank you. Oh, gosh, this is such a hard decision.
Yeah.
I will play my pair of aces. Thank you.
Yes.
It was just, so you got to be smart about it, but it's going to be a little tricky this year because there's just more liquidity in the system.
All right, boys, I appreciate the help this postseason. I think these make for fun conversations. Reviews have come in. People have enjoyed these conversations. Let's do it again next year, shall we?
Love to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure.
Whatever. Yeah, sure, whatever.
Who knows?
I mean,
I don't know what we're doing.
Where the hell are we all going to be next?
I don't know where I'm going to be in 4 days. To be honest with you,
let's
as opposed to security blanket man over here forever. I am always on the. I am 4 minutes away from being called into the conference room.
We're all day to day.
Look, all I know is that now that we just do this on our own, I don't know how to do anything else. So I'll be here.
So here's my question, and this is less for
I'll be like Brockmeyer sitting in an empty
pretty
ballpark.
much. Yeah,
this is less for Mike, who's going to be sitting in a lawn chair on the day in question. But are we doing an OG after dark after TCU UNC?
Ooh,
yes.
Yeah,
because we got to hit while the hitting
you
is
strike
good.
while the iron is hot.
You can call
Strike
me in
while-
on that
strike
one.
while
I'll
the
watch
Maine
it.
bronze
Baseball,
medal is
I know.
shiny.
What will be more? What will derive more of the hits on YouTube? TCU beating North Carolina or Jordan Hudson flashing the engagement ring in primetime?
Like first between the first and second quarters, wandering on the sideline.
Yeah, just blink. Just
Just blinging it up.
those lights are hitting.
I have just gotten so used to Luke delivering primo Dennis Miller sub-retcon references that like maybe 4 people on the planet get.
Yeah.
And this is really, I mean, I'm sad because, now I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm sad because, no, don't be sad
Don't be
because
sad
it's over.
because it's over.
I'm sad because this is over. Because I didn't think I would enjoy that as much as I do. And now I'm going to miss this.
Yeah,
There's
maybe
gonna be random texts in the middle of the night.
Maybe it was the OG After Darks along the way.
It's right. It's all the friends we made.
Costanza.
We have
Should I have
Clarence
not
Casino,
done
Chef
that?
recommends.
Should I have not done that? Was that wrong?
we have some stuff for you too.
Yeah.
We
You have to
could
come down and
Lovely
get it.
party gifts.
We have party
A
gifts.
we
year's
do.
supply of rice-a-roni.
We do. It's better than rice around.
Ceramic dogs. Yeah.
It's an OG
The patent
magnet.
Vanna balloons.
It's an OG magnet that you can put on your
Oh,
refrigerator.
Great.
No, I believe it's Weller.
Yeah, I believe it's Weller and maybe a 4-pack of OG Light. We'll see.
Oh, well.
Since I don't have any, that's great.
Yeah, because your kids
Whatever
drank them all.
If you store it at Giglio's house, it's good.
No, real
With all the
talk.
red stripes and
Seriously,
highlights.
High life and daddies.
real talk.
I got
Giglio
a
comes in,
place
he's
where
like,
we can go if you want to. And
Yeah, I
if you
know.
spend your money, that might help my retirement fund.
Graffiti actually carries OG Light. So go to Graffiti and get yourself some OG Light. All right,
Perfect.
guys.
Where's my plug?
What?
I mean, never mind.
You mean Luke DeCock, columnist, News and Observer? Like
Yeah,
his
go
YouTube
buy a
chat?
subscription. Put some food on my table. Jesus.
Re-skeeting you,
We got to come up with
right?
re-bluing.
Rebranding.
I blew myself.
Thank you,
No
Doctor.
context.
Thank you,
We'll
Dr.
just end it
Funke.
right there. We'll just end it right there. All right, guys. Thank you
Perfect
very
way
much
for me to leave.
for hanging out. All right, I'm gonna mute you, and you. We're gonna go to the OG Sports phone while you guys all reset. Yeah, it's the wrap. All right, let's go to the OG Sports phone. We have people calling the OG.
Guess I'm not quitting.
I mean,
Not till August.
all right. Today was the day, but anyway,
Well,
let's see.
now talk about striking when the iron is hot. Now I can actually wait to strike.
Oh, I see.
Launching with you like UNC TCU.
I see. I see. Now it's time to go. Now it's time to go. All right, let's go to the OG Sports phone.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
The Sports Phone is brought to you by Nature's Relief. Check them out online, naturesreliefhempstore.com. You're going to need it. I'm going to need it after tonight because we're hyped up. Let's go to a 252.
Hey, it's Chuck calling from Elizabeth City, and I just wanted to say, so much for a lot of people talking about Ahu, time to ship him out. I think he played a hell of a game. I almost had that hat trick at the end to tie it, and it didn't happen. But you know who's going to go for this team? It's time to get rid of, as bad as we need center depth, Kokenyemi. He just is not living up to the contract. But anyway, I just like to say I am proud of this team. These people want to get rid of Rod or split up this lineup. It's crazy. It's crazy. We're coming. We're going to get better guys.
I mean, Rod talked about the sexy players are coming, which I know upsets some Canes fans on social media. Don't take it so literally. All right, to a 919.
Ranger series all over again, man. Blowing leads. I mean, they're the better team. You know what just makes it worse is this. I just feel like Matthew Tkachuk he's just such a coward. Like, I remember you in Calgary, buddy, and you ran. McDavid and Draisaitl had you crying back to Florida, crying to mommy. Now he gets all this PR, all these interviews like he's the main man. It's easy to be big TED Talk tough guy when you're playing with Barkov and Bob, bro. Easy to. They're a better team. They deserve it, but I hate that coward is like the face of their franchise. Thanks for all you guys do during the season. Love you guys. Have a good off season. Get some OG Light to DC. I don't know if it is. If not, I'm going to need a case this weekend. Have a good one.
Yeah, OG Light, as I've learned, beer distribution is a very, very difficult thing. There's no like YouTube algorithm for beer distribution. You need bodies, vans. You got to get it to the right places. Don't worry, we're gonna do another candy run. OG Light's still available, by the way. State of Beer's got some. Pharmacy and Carry's got some. Graffiti's got some. Shady's out in Garner. Our friend Shady's out in Garner's have it. I know a lot of people went to Longleaf Swine over the weekend. They got their OG Light.
I saw Adam tonight. He said it's been going well.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, if it's been going well, I hope Adam is ready for a pre-order in July when we can it again. So let's go. All right, back to a 919.
Now that the Eastern Conference Finals are over, it's time to funnel our energy into something that truly matters, and that is Joe Ovies' defund Paw Patrol movement. These canine oppressors have been operating far too long without oversight, and I'm just thankful for Comrade Joe to speaking truth to power. All right, guys, go hang up and listen.
You're gonna have to deliver on this now.
Paw Patrol is propaganda, and I am not here for it. I told you the Paw Patrol discourse has to happen with Chris Clark, friend of the program.
That's right.
Because Chris Clark has consumed way more Paw Patrol than me, and he can break it down. If you were to ask me about the socioeconomic ins and outs of the island of Sodor and how Sir Topham Hatt, the robber baron who expects you to be a good cog in the machine, do not cause confusion and delay. Dude, I got deep in the weeds on the politics of the island of Sodor back in the day.
Sounds like Animal Farm.
A little bit. And if you're a troublesome truck, man, we're shipping you off to this other island, bro. Like, these children's stories, man, a little dicey sometimes. All right, 336.
Once again, another Carolina Hurricanes masterclass of the blue balls. We fucking suck. I want to point back to what one of the great philosophers, William Moore Briggs, said late in his time. He said, when you're in so deep and you're down so low, you can only go up. Unless you're the fucking Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Finals. Love you, boys. Be smooth.
I don't know who's more fired up, another Eastern Conference Finals loss or my thoughts on Caillou, that little turd of a cartoon children's show. Also, I wanted to go back because we got sidetracked by the Paw Patrol thing. The Rangers series from last year has come up a couple of times. We talked about it with Luke too. And I refuse to equate what happened in 2024 and what happened tonight. I mean, in 2020,
it was also the second round. It was a different round.
It was a different round. They shouldn't have been going out in the second round, and they shouldn't have given up a 2-1 lead with a natural hat trick from Chris Kreider, for heaven's sake. I'm sorry, but that's another one of those, we got goal lead. Nah. That was a problem. This series is a combination of two things. Florida, hard stop, simply better. You could not make that argument about the Rangers last year. Florida's just better this year. And when things looked like they were going off the rails tonight, the Canes found a way to get back into this thing in the third period. I'm not looking at the chat. What is... Yeah. Serena's right. Bald ass Caillou from John. Caillou is the only reason the U.S. should actually invade Canada. You're absolutely right, John.
No, seriously. Caillou discourse.
So look, Caillou's out here like screwing things up, like he can set the house on fire, and the parents are like, "That's okay, Caillou. We learned a lesson today. Don't play with matches."
Wait a second. There are no new ideas.
What's that?
What was the guy on Deadspin who tore apart every...
Oh, that was Drew McGarry.
He
would tear apart every Williams and Sonoma catalog.
No, he did kids' cartoons, too.
Oh, he did?
He did one on the Backyardigans. He did one on Dora the Explorer and the Fresh Beat Band.
Yeah.
I might have peed myself with the Fresh Beat Band one that he did, but I do remember when he said something about Dora the Explorer. He was like, backpack. Looking for your backpack. Go find your fucking parents.
Swipe or no swiping.
Once again.
All right. I think I played that 336. Let's go back to 619.
All right. So a few points after this whole series and specifically tonight's game. Every single Panthers goal was excellent. You can't fault them. It's a great team. Every single shot they put on net was almost perfect. I think we learned throughout the series, and I'm hoping the team takes away from this, to play your own game and don't try to play your opponent's style. Tried to play aggressive and get into those spats on the ice for the first 2.5, 3 games, and that obviously didn't work out. As soon as you started playing Kane-style hockey, things started working a little bit better. Tonight just started so hot. It was almost a perfect first period. There was no way you could sustain it. It still almost worked out because you had a 2-0 lead, and the Panthers just hit on one of those bulk scoring runs that they're wont to do, and put it up 3-2, and still it was a close game right down to the last minute. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I know people are going to be calling for Rod's job. Probably not as much now that they didn't get swept, but I think you got one of the youngest cores in hockey. You got a lot of young players coming up, and with that, you have the rarity of having an extremely large amount of playoff experience on this roster. They now know what it's like another year to make the Eastern Conference Finals. I think Aho took a step tonight, even though they didn't win. I feel like the future going forward is great. I know hockey is dumb, and you could be the best team in hockey every single season and not ever make the Stanley Cup, but man, it feels closer now than it ever did when we were getting swept in the Eastern Conference Finals the last 2 times. I don't know. I'm positive. Sucks to lose, but Florida hockey's not going to be around forever. Just at this point, I hope we beat any team from Canada, so I hope the Oilers lose out. All right, go Canes.
There you go. Let's see.
I agree with the first part.
Yeah.
The goals that they scored were.
Yeah. From Ian. Damn, this is the best Canes Nation has for post games. And he follows up. Should watch Leaf Nation or what's with the nations, bro? Like, what is this? We're in 2025. We're still doing the nation thing. Get an idea of how a live post game is supposed to be run. Buddy, we're an hour and 12 minutes into this thing. We had former Governor Roy Cooper in here. Luke DeCock was here. Mike Maniscalco was here. We're taking phone calls. I'm sure that Leafs Nation and Oilers Nation does not do any of those things while also engaging in some gallows humor while Caillou and Paw Patrol catch strays. Show me a YouTube live stream that gives you all that. You can't. So either you enjoy what you're watching or get the fuck out the chat, bro. All right, let's move on to I already had to kick one guy out.
Bob?
No, not Bob. Bob has not been here. I had to kick one guy out because he started getting really personal. It's like, come on, guys. Either get in the chat and play nice or don't freaking get in the chat at all. I'm tired. And I ain't got time for that.
The flag looks good.
3-2 Florida, very much an NC State crowd. The energy just dropped. Where's TJ Warren?
Oh, man. NC State always catching strays.
It wasn't Dave Doran yet.
Not yet. The night is young. All right, let's go to a 3-3-6.
Well, hell. I mean, they played good. They played tough. Florida's just too much. Also, are our sticks made of balsa wood? What the crap? How do we break a hockey stick every 3 minutes on that ice? I don't get what's going on there. Proud of the Hurricanes, even with the rough time. I mean, those first 3 games were a nightmare, though. And it's just hard to get back from that. Got all the cap room in the world, guys. Got to make something happen. All right. Go Canes. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'll admit that youth hockey has rewired my brain that when I see a broken stick, I go, I hope I kept the pure hockey receipt and it's within 30 days. That's my thought.
At least it wasn't Burns this time. I feel like he had a whole run of those.
Well, Burns had his stick freaking slice. Was it Burns that had his stick slashed in half, and there wasn't even a freaking call? It was a slash. They didn't even call it, but at this point, it's just nitpicking. All right, let's go to a 3-3-6.
Well,
no, I already played that one. All right, it's a 9-1-9.
Well, that is the season. After a first period that I thought, man, I hope Sunrise is ready for game 6. Oh, man, dude, am I still a man if I cry? Like, what do you do? We kind of lost the same way last season where it was just this random flurry of goals by guys going to the front of the damn net. And we don't stop it. I don't know what to do. And I don't think the defensemen in this case were bad, in not stopping the play. I hated Orlov's game. I'm not going to, lie about that one. But maybe if we have somebody like Orlov, I don't know, maybe don't play him with Nikishin. Sorry. But I guess maybe there's a language barrier there and you kind of got to. Yeah. And then Slavin, Burns, they're just out there putting out every single man. I mean, Brent Burns has played himself into retirement in this series alone in these last 2 games with how much he's played. So, but I don't know. It's hard to be mad at losing this way because they went out there and fought. I could be mad about games 1 through 3, but games 4 and 5 I'm not bad about. But this is the hole that we dug ourselves into. Now we are officially into off-season protocol coming up. And you know what? The Carolina Hurricanes are going to win the 2026 Stanley Cup. Good night. Y'all have a good one. I'm sorry it ended like this, but don't you worry. Dave Doran's coming back real soon to light these phones up. Have a good one, guys.
Well, we got there.
Why is the Dave Doran constantly catching?
It took 75 minutes, but
we finally got it. We finally got it. All right, let's go to a 919.
Well,
no, we already played that. Hold on a second. 704.
Well, was a hell of a season.
I'm sorry. I would have to
Everyone,
pause.
we
I
like
would have to pause it right
of
there.
Wells.
I would have to pause right. I think we've taken 5 or 6 straight calls where the first thing out of everybody's mouth has been, well, dude, I feel that. I feel it. I feel it, man. I feel it. Much like I feel all this hate in the club tonight for Caillou. All right, 704.
Everybody said it was supposed to be a rebuilding year and this and that. No. We had a chance this year. This team could have raised the cup this year. I don't know where the effort was in game 1 and 2 that they showed tonight and last night, and even game 3. As shitty as that game turned out, the effort was there. I love Rod. I love the boys. I love the team. But that just wasn't good enough. I don't know. I think we need to make some changes on the coaching staff. No, I don't think Rod needs to go. Yeah, I said that before. I'm caught in the moment, whatever. But we need some new special teams coaching. The power play is not enough. Luckily, we got $30 million to spend in the off season. We need to go get Mitch Marner. We need to go get Sam Bennett. I don't care. We got to reload. This team is too good to let this pass up. People talk about windows and this and that. We have a great core. I don't care. People want to say Sebastian Aho's not a top liner. He looked like a fucking top line center tonight. We've got to do something to get this team over the hump. I don't know what it is, but I will say, at least after these last 2 games, I do have faith that we can do it. I think Rod is the right coach. I'm ready. I'm ready to see us do something different and hopefully lift that fucking cup. It's been too damn long. And last time we lifted it, I was ready to drive overnight to Raleigh to go greet the boys at the airport, and I didn't do it. And that might be one of my biggest regrets in life because I don't know if I'll ever get the chance again.
So this is the thing that I think we're going to have to, and we'll spend all off season talking about this. And I'm sure when they do the exit interviews, I'll be curious to see what Rod and Tulsky and maybe even Dunn would say about this kind of stuff. Something's got to change. Something's got to change. Here's the problem, though. They're successful in the regular season. They make the playoffs. They get out of the first round. I'll even include the bubble hockey. I'm going to include the bubble hockey. They played a series in the bubble, right?
Making me twitch.
I understand that, but they played a series in the bubble. Did I misremember that? All right, so here we go. So it's going to be a tough. It's going to be tough because the whole idea is to get to this point and then see what happens. It just so happens that the Panthers, talent-wise, depth-wise, were more than you. So I don't know what necessarily is going to change other than what Rod has consistently said throughout his entire tenure here when he talks about and he gets like wistful and about other players and the talent there. And it's not necessarily saying that he doesn't believe in his guys. Clearly that's not the case. because they get here, they buy in, they find themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals. But deep down, to your point, Joe, about you look at the roster and things like that, in a lot of ways, you're actually impressed that they've maximized their roster they have. And then you see in a situation like this, a team getting to it. You think a team gets to its third straight Stanley Cup Finals because they don't have dudes?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a real tough thing to
I mean, it just so happened to work out tonight.
Square.
It just so happened to work out tonight that the Carolina Hurricanes only had one line score.
Yeah.
But they were the only line that was a threat to score.
Yep.
And then you look at who scored the goals for Florida. Barkov, top line.
Yep.
Verhaeghe, second line. Kachuk, second line. Marchand.
hell of a season.
Whoa, I'm playing the wrong call. All right, to the 919.
All right. Sitting here watching this game. A lot of hope. Then they score 2 goals in 30 seconds. As I drink my OG Light, I hope this isn't false hopes. But if it is, I'll drink another one.
Turned out to be false hopes. I hope I still hope you drank another one though. All right, to a 910.
Again, Jesus Christ, K-Day. All right, before I unleash on my vitriol and hatred, I bet on you to score in the third period and make up for your blunders. Tom, baby, you're going to do it. We're coming back. Go Caves.
Ah, yes. As we raw dog these calls, these clearly came in the middle of the third period. All right, this is from a 919.
Hey, Joe and Joe. At least I'm leaving entertained this time, so I got to give them credit for that. It was a performance that looked like a hockey team. It was fun. Had a good time. Screamed my head off. All the things that I would have liked to have done in the first 2 games of this series. Looking forward to a better team next year. And I just want to say that the happiest hockey fan in America right now is Jalen Chatfield's agent. Good night, guys.
Yeah, I'll be really curious to find out the final diagnosis on Jalen Chatfield.
I think that had to have been a foot injury because every time he tried to skate, you could just see him in discomfort, ankle, foot, whatever. He just couldn't skate.
Yeah, he's not out
that was
there.
Obvious.
He would be
that was
out
obvious
there
in
if
warm-ups
he could.
is what I'm saying.
And it's fairly obvious.
It was just so totally uncomfortable. But I agree, they missed him. And, money's on the table. I thought Orlov was in position, but there's where your communication gap comes in, not just between Orlov, who's busy, right? Orlov can't be narrating the whole game and announcing the game to Nikishin.
Yeah.
So I thought that caught up to them on the Barkov to Verhaeghe goal, and the Hurricanes willingly got worse on defense this year. They made that choice.
But you got to remember they made that choice.
They made it 2 years ago
with the understanding that this was going to be a transitionary season.
Yeah.
This has always been earmarked for a transitionary season on the defensive side. That's why, going back to the conversation with Luke, we know there are defensive pairings that are not going to be here next year.
Yeah, and
that's where the bulk of the change I think is going to be. I mean, how can it not be?
I hope.
Well, you hope. You hope. I understand that. To a 336.
Gentlemen, tough night. As a Canes fan, even all the way up here in Brooklyn, I'm going to get flack for this one. But honest to God, I'm just thrilled to see the last governor that I voted for when I was still a resident of North Carolina on with you guys, talking about this team. And here we go. Speculation for the next 3 or 4 months about cap space. I hope they use it wisely. I can't wait to see Aho's at 2C next year. Fingers crossed. God bless you guys. God bless the Canes. God bless Roy Cooper. We'll see ya.
God bless the algorithm. Looks like, I forgot about this from Andrew. Just remember, Sir Topham Hatt got buried. He buried a train alive because he didn't want to work since it was raining heavy, which is dangerous for some trains. Sir Topham Hatt is ruthless, bro. Confusion and delay. All right, to another 336.
Hey guys, watching the After Dark after we've thoroughly got eliminated. with Governor Cooper and Mike Maniscalco. Love these After Dark episodes. I just can't figure out why the Canes reverted back to what they were doing in games 1, 2, and 3 in the third period. The first two periods of this game, they were playing Canes hockey. Unfortunately, it came back to bite us in the ass in the third period. It's a sad commentary, and I wonder, is it Brind'Amour or is it the players? Either way, in honor of Mike Maniscalco, because we're both Yankee fans, I'm going to turn on the Yankee game. Take care. Bye.
There you go.
A little bit confused there. The second period was the problem.
Yeah, the second period is the problem. The third period, the Canes actually played pretty damn well. It's just Florida's better. All right, we got two more before we wrap things up. 919.
You know, I'm sad. I'm bummed, especially considering surrendered a 2-goal lead thanks to some mistakes and some bad juju courtesy of John Shire. Thank you, Duke. But, you know, we didn't get swept, which sounds stupid, but this was a rebuild year, and it ended up being the third best run through the playoffs this team has had in franchise history. Can only be so mad. We have the right coach. We have good, solid rookies coming in. And we had a year full of entertainment. So I'm thankful, honestly, to everyone. But let's head to the offseason right, because next year is honestly cup or bust.
Again, this is one of these tough situations where the cup or bust and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, go back 10 years and ask a Canes fan. You will be calling into a YouTube post-game show with two fired radio guys and saying cup or bust. I mean, it is kind of funny how we got here, but I will say this. I said this after game 2 when they were getting booed, when the team was getting booed, and you had the shoot the puck chance and all that kind of stuff. I do feel that this season in particular was a graduation level for fans and the expectations going forward. And that's why I do think this offseason is going to be very intriguing for a lot of reasons. That's mainly because the expectations have been raised for just about everybody. It's not just from the front office, but even the fans expect more now. And they're going to let them know. And of course, the fans are also going to come back. And I said this at the Jump, and I'll say it again. This is a really good building tonight. What it easily could not have been.
After that Jarvis goal, that's about as loud as I've ever heard this.
Well, the first period, man, was rocking with those Aho plays. All right, I believe this is the last one.
Ending of the game. Of course, sorrowful. Always going to be sad for any of these games when we lose. But one thing that to always keep in mind is we were not supposed to be this far. We weren't even supposed to beat Florida. Let's be quite honest with that. Retool year of all retool years, lost multiple people in the off season, traded away great guys. Taylor Hall and Stankoven are great in the returns, but this was just a year that we knew going into it was a retool year. So we just have to be blessed in the fact that we made it to the Eastern Conference Finals and be blessed that we finally broke the curse of losing in the Eastern Conference Finals. Just keep that in mind.
Hey, a win is a win, right? You finally broke the curse. You're off the schneid. Here you go. Fantastic stuff. We will be back tomorrow for an OG Live. Thanks to our friends at the Butcher's Market. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll be awake by 2.
Yeah, it's 2. We go live at 2:00.
I'll be okay.
Plus, I gotta go look at the John Boy Zapruder film about Paul Maurice and Rod Brind'Amour.
John Boy's on it.
Apparently, John Boy's on.
Yes.
It. So
John Boy's the best.
So John Boy's on that thing. So I'll be watching that
awesome.
in the morning.
Well, we got content then.
We do have content.
We got a lot to get into.
Dude, man, I hate when this is when you make your money, Joe. Talking about the Canes, that's easy. Talking about coaching searches, piece of cake.
Yeah. We did get one of those, didn't we?
We've actually had a very good run.
I broke all the news.
We got Bill Belichick here. We had basketball coaching searches. We had Eastern Conference Finals.
Wait a second.
Honestly, dude, we made it past Memorial Day pretty well.
You know what we should do?
What's that?
I've always wanted to do a Jim Rome year in review.
We're going to do it mid-year,
but I do it I try to scramble in December when we have a bunch of shit going on.
Yeah.
I just think we have a week of radio on a midweek here in review.
Because
remember, I marked down all the calls that I liked.
We could do that.
We could yank some calls that we liked.
We can do that. We could also.
I got another person who said they would, if we were to put together a reel tape of all of my laughing fits.
You could do that.
That we would get some money on this Twitch.
I told you what I want to do. You know, like I know The Athletic recently came out with like the top 25 college football programs of the last 25 years. Like who was the best quarterback in the last 25 years? Who was the best
big
team?
Game boomer this thing up, man.
We absolutely do. There's a debate about, you know, that 01 Miami squad. Are they the best? Or was that LSU squad with Joe Burrow and everybody? Was that the best? All that kind of stuff. But you see, that's easy to do. It's easy to put together.
Top 25s of the 25?
No. It's easy to put together your top 25 of the greatest things ever. But nobody's ever attempted to do a top 25 triangle good. This is my summer project. We're going to do this. This is content, peak content. There's two things that I want to highlight. Who were the best triangle good QBs of the last 25 years? If I asked you who the best triangle college football quarterback was, that has nothing to do with the pros, who you got? And then we can also do the prince who was promised but never delivered. Who was that QB that was supposed to come to town and change the effing game and then never did?
Mike Paulus might be the winner.
That might be the winner too. That was my first thought because he referred to himself as the ringleader, and he didn't even really play. In fact, I think his brother Greg Paulus had a much better quarterback career at Syracuse. Anyway, these are all things that we're kicking around. I might shock the world and put Marquise Williams my number one. I might.
It's in the conversation.
It's in the conversation. Anyway, those are all the summer protocol things we can do. But big thanks to everybody who's enjoyed the After Darks. Obviously, you guys, you responded last year when we did this, and we saw the numbers reflect that. So we thought, all right, let's do it again. And of course, we could not do this without Mike Maniscalco, Canes play-by-play, and Luke DeCock of the News and Observer. The conversations don't go like this without those two. It also helps that we've known those guys for 20 plus years. And really all we're doing, what you're seeing, is we're just kind of bringing you conversations we'd be having up here anyway. So thankfully that resonated with you all and you enjoyed it. And we'll hopefully be able to do that again next year. But the summer sports calendar has arrived officially with the exit of the Carolina Hurricanes. Unless we get another magical NC State Carolina College World Series run of some sort, it's in the cards. Never say never. Never say never, right? But that officially ends our season, so to speak. So we enter into off-season protocols. Of course, we'll continue to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll have the exit interviews. Hopefully, we'll have a chance to sit down with Rod Brind'Amour, Eric Tulsky, and the like. So that'll be in the cards. We'll be back for an OG live, thanks to the Butcher's Market, 2:00 on YouTube. I promise you. Oh, what's this? Top 25 worst losses in Duke, UNC, and NC State history for football and basketball. Abso-freaking-lutely, Norm. We can do this. Look, the summer ain't gonna go by as fast as we want, so to speak, right? So we're gonna make that happen. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 2:00 or later today, 2:00.
So thank you, Gomez. Thank you, crew. And fucking go Hurricanes.